we're on to the positive side of the season.
Yep.
I think
we're on the upswing. Best moment of the year. So while I am staring at the framed Miami field rushing poster, I'm actually going to say it's beating Clemson on the road, which, for the record, if Eric McLean is watching this, yes, you still owe me barbecue over that game. But SMU avenged that 2024 ACC championship game loss, and you go on the road to Clemson, to Death Valley. Great trip, by the way. For those of y'all that didn't go the next time SMU is up there. It's such a cool place to go and visit. All the times that Eric McLean has told the story about how cool the campus is, the environment, all that, it all lives up to the hype. But SMU is able to rush for 139 when Clemson rushed for 35. And I want to say they had -2 yards in the first half on the ground, where it was one of those performances where SMU came out, they set the tone early, they were able to play from ahead on the road, silence Death Valley, and you're able to get out of there with a win where you really put the exclamation point at the end when things got dicey, and you're able to pull this one out. So you stuff Peter Woods on 4th down. I mean, there were so many moments from that game where it could have swung in Clemson's direction. You know, KJ getting hurt and everybody in our section just goes, it's over. Yeah, the game is over. I mean, no disrespect to Ty Hawkins, but I wouldn't exactly want my first meaningful playing time experience to come in Death Valley. I mean, that's not a recipe for success for a young quarterback. And out comes Kevin, and he throws a bomb to Jordan Hudson down the sideline. It's like, okay, I guess we're so back. But that game for me was a little bit made up for the Baylor and the TCU game, to go beat that brand on the road and just be able to get it done with this group. And all the Clemson faithful, I'm sure, are going to be in the comments. Be sure to get in the comments, like, comment, subscribe, and battle them when they say that, oh, Cade Klubnik wasn't playing. Well, when you look at that game, their quarterback played exceptionally well.
Yeah, it was
awesome. Vizina, I'm trying to remember. Yep. He balled out. So I don't really think it would have made a difference if Klubnik was in that game.
If anything, I would say that the way Klubnik had played so far that year, I mean, I don't know. He was gripping the stick pretty tight for the most part that season. So who knows? Vizina was able to come out and just drop some bombs on SMU to keep that game close. Otherwise, it's not. Best moment, I think Miami is super easy. That one really stood out to me just because, I think coming off of the Wake game, kind of similar to the Holiday Bowl, and I almost picked the Holiday Bowl just because personally I needed SMU to win. Hey, when clock was striking midnight at that party we were at, I was like, hey guys, we need this one. We don't need the board being whatever. But the Miami game was the best. I mean, there's so many viral moments from that game. That's a game that people are going to talk about forever. And, when you look at this season, you'll always have that.
Yeah.
And there's I really think when you're 5 years away from the season, you say, man, that was a pretty good SMU team. They had some things that didn't go their way, but damn, we beat Miami. You're going to tell your friends about it. If you canceled your flight after the Wake Forest game to not be at homecoming, you're going to be like, should have been there, wasn't. Big mistake, huge type of mistake there to not be in Ford for that game. And I think that game, when you look at the future of this program, and friend of the show, of course, Bill Armstrong mentioned some conversations around what's next for Ford Stadium after being at Snapdragon, that type of a game, and then you add a bigger stadium into the mix for SMU. That's what SMU is going for. That's the type of level you want Ford Stadium to be at. And you want to continue to build on that level of production, that level of entertainment, that level of experience that SMU showed in that Miami game. Massive moment for the program. I think, they capitalized on it well until they got to the Cal game. I mean, they didn't, not show up against, the rest of the the schedule right after that, they played BC and took care of business. Did all those things, but that Miami game we're always going to have, and that was a big deal.
If Miami wins the national championship on Monday night, go ahead and hang the banner in Ford Stadium.
Well, SMU basketball sweeping UConn and SMU football beating Miami. That's just what we do. We just lock in national championships for other people, apparently.
Rate the season on the scale from Penn State to Indiana.
This is a great part of the show. Like the way you tee that up, the Penn State. And for those that don't know, Hayden does the rundown. So Hayden plans the show. Sometimes we go off script. Sometimes I go off script, whatever. But when I saw rate the season, I missed this piece where you're like, okay, Penn State to Indiana. And I love the way you set that up.
So I'm gonna compare this season to the Iowa Hawkeyes. Here's why. Start the season ranked. You lose to your arch rival. They lose to Iowa State. You win a couple. They lose to Indiana, which I would say that our loss against Wake is way worse than losing to number 11 Indiana. You go on a little bit of a run. They lose a couple games down the stretch, but then in their bowl game, they beat a ranked Vanderbilt team. So all in all, I'm sure a disappointing season for an Iowa team that was in talks to be in the playoff at some point, but ultimately end on a high note. And when I compare that to SMU, I think this season is disappointing moments, not disappointing play. The season really came down to 3 plays. Missed field goal against Baylor, the long pass that set up the Wake Forest miracle field goal. And then while you were doing that most recent ad break, I was looking for a play against Cal. The first series out of the half, we went 3 and out. We had a long third down, and we come up 3 yards short of the first down. So we go 3 and out, led to a Cal touchdown, and the deficit becomes 24-7. Convert that third down. And who knows? Maybe SMU drives the field. Maybe they score a touchdown. They get right back in it. Then it would have become a 17-14 ball game instead of a 24-7. And I think at that point, SMU would have gotten some confidence back. And, then who knows? Maybe we'd be playing on Monday night. But
even like if everything else plays out, even if you pick up that first down, then, let's say you go 6 and out. I mean, that's not enough time for, well, I guess that might not be enough time for Cal to go down the field, but who knows? I mean,
to get their last second touchdown that they had to take the lead.
Yeah.
But look, I'm encouraged by the culture. And before everybody jumps at my throat and is like, well, we were one of the most penalized team in the country, and we lost all of the games that we had a fourth quarter lead. SMU has never lost back-to-back conference games under Rhett Lashley. The team responded when it needed to against big-time opponents. Miami, Clemson, Louisville showed what this team could have been in 2025. But like I said earlier in the show, Billy, the ball is weirdly shaped. Bounces didn't go your way at times. And so we'll look back at this season in 5 and 10 years, and yes, we'll always have Miami, but we'll also be like, man, what if?
Yeah. I think this season, I'm trying to think of a comp for this year's team. I mean, you could argue like Texas-ish. I mean, a team that doesn't really have a way to advocate for itself to be in the college football playoff. There's no doubt SMU lost that on its own. Texas lost that on its own. Texas had some big moments in their 2025 season. That is something that stands out to me, of course. But, they also had a loss to Florida. SMU had a loss to Wake Forest. They went up against an Ohio State, and, their offense kind of didn't get off the bus. Their defense played great. They beat a top 10 Vandy team. They beat Oklahoma, who didn't have the quarterback or what have you. But, they beat Texas A&M. There's your Miami kind of game in a sense. And SMU Miami, not a rivalry, but man, it'd be great if it turned into one. We all know why. But, then they go out and they beat Michigan in the bowl game. And granted, these two teams were totally different in the bowl game. But I think that's because SMU could very well end up in the top 25 when it's all said and done. But Texas had no basis to really sit there and be like, oh, yeah, we deserve to be in the playoff. Like, no. Yeah. You had a couple of nice wins, no doubt about it, but you also had some really rough losses too. So, and again, it's all relative. They played a difficult schedule, but I think that's Texas fans probably have a similar level of disappointment to SMU fans. I mean, I think maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some people are going to jump right down my throat in the comment section of that. But like you think about it, big time quarterback coming back. You really thought your defense was going to be like nails. I think SMU's offense struggled at times to be like overly explosive. And so Kevin ends up throwing for a bunch of yards, but he's got to do it all. Texas, their skill players were like really average this year. That's the thing when you look at Texas for next year. Okay, cool. They got Cam Coleman today as we're recording this. But I mean, who else really like do you love at their wide receiver position? They let one of their better ones go in Parker Livingstone. Yeah, they got Hollywood Smothers down the backfield, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch them unfold next year. But I would say like a Texas level. I think there were super high expectations, especially internally for SMU. You think that if you're SMU, I mean, based off last year, you're better going into the season than TCU and Baylor. If you're Texas, you're going up to Ohio State and you're thinking, we've got a team that can beat them. And they did. They just kind of, I thought the coaching was bad in that game offensively, but I don't know. That's my rating, like, for SMU. I think Texas and SMU fans have similar levels of disappointment.
That's a good pull. I will say Arch played horrendous in that game against Ohio State, but I
think like the wide receivers couldn't create separation because they didn't recruit very good ones.
Agreed. Yeah.
Like
Ryan Wingo has not panned out.
No, he's like he should bulk up and be RJ Maryland.
Yeah. I mean, seriously.